November 1938. It was a clash of eras. The old guard, led by the legendary José Raul Capablanca, facing the new Soviet man Mikhail Botvinnik at the Avro tournament in the Netherlands. In this game, Botvinnik would produce what Garry Kasparov called many years later the game of his life. It is a journey from a seemingly dead bad bishop on b2 to one of the most stunning double deflection sacrifices ever recorded. Let us look at the brilliance of Mikhail Botvinnik. Botvinnik opens the game with pawn to d4. And the response of Capablanca was knight to f6. Pawn to c4 by white, pawn to e6 by black, knight to c3, and bishop b4 by black. The game begins with the Nimzo Indian defense. Capablanca seeks to control the center through a pin on the c3 knight, e3 by white, d5 by black, and a3 by white. Botvinnik immediately puts the question to the bishop. In the Samish variation, white is willing to accept double pawns in exchange for the bishop pair and a massive center. Capablanca captures on b3 with check. White recaptures. White has a damaged pawn structure, but gains the semi-open b-file and two powerful bishops. Black will look to exploit the weak c-pawns. We have c5 by black. White captures on d5. Black recaptures with the e-pawn. Now white has a central mass. Bishop to d3 by white, kingside castling by black, knight to e2. Botvinnik develops the knight to e2 instead of f3 because he wants to keep the f-pawn free to move to f3 later to support the e4 break. We have knight to b6. Capablanca's plan is to exchange the light square bishops. Since white's pawns are on dark squares, his light squared bishop is the most dangerous attacking piece. We have kingside castling by white, bishop to a6, the white bishop captures on a6, and black captures with his knight. The bishops are gone. The position looks equal. Knight on a6 is out of play, but it will soon find a path back. At this point, Capablanca felt completely safe. But maybe he underestimated the deep latent energy in white's center. We have bishop to b2, the most controversial move of that game. After that move, the chances are completely equal. The bishop on b2 looks like a bad bishop, but Botvinnik wants to overprotect d4 so that his other pieces can leave their defensive positions. It is obviously by overprotecting d4 that Botvinnik prepares the moves f3 and e4 without having to worry about the d4 pawn. We have queen to d7 by black, a4 by white, rook from f to e8 by black, queen d3 by white. And now we have pawn to c4. This move is not a big mistake, but positional wrong, because black closes the center. He gives Botvinnik a free hand for his kingside assault. We have queen to c2 by white, knight to b8, rook from a to e1 by white. Botvinnik signals his intention. The rooks are centralized, so he will play e4 soon. Now we have knight to c6 by black, knight to g3 by white, and knight to a5 by black. This move is not good. Better would have been knight to e4. We have pawn to f3, and Capablanca answers with knight to b3. Pawn to e4 now, and the black queen captures the pawn on a4. For a central breakthrough, Botvinnik sacrificed the a4 pawn to get a perfect setup. Capablanca wins the a4 pawn, but the price is to play on the wrong side of the board. Now we have pawn to e5, knight to d7, the white queen moves to f2, g6 by black. Capablanca creates a fianchetto defense without the bishop. But that is for him a necessary evil to stop white's pawn to f5. Pawn to g6 also creates permanent holes on the dark squares. We have now pawn to f4 by white, f5 by black. White captures on f6. The black knight recaptures. f5 by white. Botvinnik forces Capablanca into a cramped defense. Rook captures on e1. White's rook recaptures. Black rook on e8. And Botvinnik moves the rook to e6. Capablanca captures on e6. Now white has a winning positional advantage. White recaptures on e6 with the pawn. Black king to g7. The white queen moves to f4. Capablanca moves his queen back to e8. White queen moves to e5. This move seems very good, but much better would have been queen to c7 with check. The black queen moves to e7. Now black is completely paralyzed. The knight on f6 cannot move because of the pin. The black queen has to defend passively. The stage is set for the final. Look to this position. Can you see what Botvinnik played? If you can, then you play like a grandmaster. Botvinnik moves the bishop to a3. What a brilliant move! A double deflection. Botvinnik offers the bishop to pull the black queen away from the defense of the e7 square and the kingside. Black's defensive coordination is completely shattered. Capablanca captures the bishop on a3. But now we have knight to h5 with check. The second hammer blow. Botvinnik sacrifices the knight to force the g-pawn to move. The g-pawn has to capture, clearing the path for the white queen. Now we have queen to g5 with check. The black king moves back to f8. The white queen captures on f6 with check. King to g8. And now pawn to e7. Black's position is hopeless. The e-pawn is only one step away from promotion. and there is no way for Capablanca to stop it without giving up the queen. We have queen to c1 with check, white's king to f2, queen to c2 with check, king to g3, queen to d3 with check, king to h4, queen to e4 with check, the white king captures on h5, queen to e2 with check, white king moves to h4, again black's queen moves to e4 with check, and now we have g4. Capablanca moves the queen to e1 to give his last check, and after king to h5 he resigned. Botvinnik escapes the perpetual check. Promotion of the e7 pawn is coming or checkmate. Mikhail Botvinnik played a remarkable chess game of precision and a spectacular bishop sacrifice. For a long time, Capablanca was the chess machine. But in this game, Botvinnik showed him a new kind of machinery, on that integrated deep opening preparation and flawless tactical execution with a long-term sacrifice. Everyone who wants to understand the power of central control and the art of long-term sacrifice should study this game. If you enjoyed this masterpiece, make sure to hit the like button of this video. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.